And then in a collective sense, we took a lot of time to look at how we represented ourselves as a sector, considering we had been through a sector restructuring. And that caused a change in role for our association in Northern Ireland, ANAC, the Association of Northern Ireland Colleges, or as we're now attempting to rebrand it, Colleges Northern Ireland. Because if you only have 6 large colleges rather than 16 colleges of various sizes, the services that you need to organise centrally, of course, that model actually changes. And the bigger colleges are much more self-sufficient in many ways. But what has emerged as a key role in Colleges Northern Ireland is the advocacy role, the role of representing the sector and developing the sector's interests and influence within the various structures for economic development and the political structures within Northern Ireland. And I did unfortunately spot the deliberate mistake in my slide last night when it was too late to do anything about it. It's not supposed to say communities, it's supposed to say communication. But that's not the worst mistake I've ever made, because the notion of being involved in innovative communities with employer organisations is actually not a bad concept, so I'll use that kind of excuse. But at a sector level, it was very important that we had good communication channels to those organisations which represented the employer interests. If we were developing our local communication with those businesses and industries which were in the areas of the individual colleges, it was very important when we talked to people like the CBI, the Institute of Directors, the Northern Ireland Chamber of Colleges, Chamber of Commerce, that they actually knew what was happening in the colleges, in the new regional colleges, how they were changing and how they could make a much more constructive impact in relation to the needs of employers. So that role of communication to employers' organisations, I think, was something we put a lot of effort into, and I think it's something that's beginning to pay off, because we now have doors open to us, I think, that perhaps we didn't have before, and we're certainly sitting at tables to which we would perhaps in the past not have been invited. Structural collaboration as well was an important aspect here, because it was not always clear, I think, in relation to the business community as to who actually provided what services in a place like Northern Ireland. And certainly the colleges hadn't had themselves as well enough established in the other key organisations that supported economic development, such as Invest Northern Ireland, which is the organisation which attracts foreign investment into Northern Ireland and supports the development of local companies. And I think I'll maybe illustrate in a moment or two the practical ways in which that's beginning to show itself. But we have to remember in Northern Ireland as well that we have relatively new and emerging political structures. And really, we in the colleges, I think, are only starting to understand how we can influence political structures and how important a role that actually is. And how in a place, particularly as small as Northern Ireland, if you get your voice heard in the right places, you can start to influence policy and influence direction rather than just merely responding to policy that's set by other people. And whether that's policy in relation to economic matters, whether it's policy in relation to how the STEM agenda develops, whether it's 14 to 19 curriculum, whether it's the role of higher education and further education, colleges, all of those things are now subject to local political determination. And therefore, as colleges, we have to make sure that our voice and our influence is actually heard with people like the Minister who is with us this morning, and the other political structures in Northern Ireland as well. Special funding, when and where it is available, it's always important to be able to tap into that and to make constructive use of that particular funding. And I'll mention examples of this in a moment or two in relation to the local availability of an innovation fund made available through the government departments, and also the Connected project, which funds collaboration between the colleges, universities and industry. It was an interesting point that our colleague Professor Medhat was making his contribution, and I'll come back to that. And more locally, in terms of communication and listening to the business community, we developed in each of the 6 regional college areas a workforce development forum, which is a private sector-led forum of local business leaders and employers whose task is to articulate the specific needs in relation to skills development and employment requirements in the particular locality served by the individual regional colleges. An important part of the more localised communication between the colleges and industry. And although that's something that's still emerging, I think it is an important factor in relation to influencing what the colleges actually do and making sure that what the colleges actually do is relevant in terms of the local community. I'd just like to briefly, in the interest, I don't think I have time to go through all of these, but touch on some of the key examples of collaborative activity between the colleges, because I think it does pick up some of the issues, the challenges that certainly the last speaker talked about. And these are examples where money has been available, where individual colleges have taken the lead in particular projects, but they have involved the other colleges, so you have a network of colleges actually acting in concert. And I think the impact that comes from that is obviously much greater in terms of the overall benefit that accrues to the economy, but also for the status and reputation of the colleges as a responsive sector which can deliver to industry. The Connected project brings together colleges, universities and business in essentially knowledge transfer types of activities. And the important thing there, I think, is that it is the colleges and the universities working together. Again, an important message to send out to business and to industry. That if colleges and universities work together with a particular industry or set of companies, then the service is actually an enhanced one, because not only do you get the knowledge transfer, the research and development expertise of the universities, but the specific skills development expertise of the colleges. You get a package, in other words, or the industry and business gets a package. I haven't time to talk about all of these, but just pick out two projects, Rapid Response and Carbon Zero. Carbon Zero is led by the Southwest College. My colleague Malachy down at the back obviously would be very happy to talk in greater detail about this, but the Southwest College has developed an expertise in relation to the green economy and has been involved in a number of innovative projects in relation to that. But what we've, I think, done particularly well is to extend the involvement in the Carbon Zero project to the other 5 colleges as well, managed centrally by the Southwest College, but with each of the other 5 colleges picking up a particular niche, if you like, in relation to the support for the emerging green economy. The Rapid Response project, led by our colleagues in the Southeastern Regional College, was really developed in response to the economic downturn to meet the needs of companies which would be faced with particular difficulties, financial difficulties, perhaps meaning the need for very immediate upskilling or reskilling of the workforce, potential redundancies and the need to equip that workforce for searching for new employment opportunities, or looking at the sustainability issues in that particular company or plant in relation to where it was actually going, seeing itself through, but perhaps short-term difficulties in relation to the economic downturn. Again, a project developed by a particular college, but involving all of the other 5 colleges in terms of looking at companies, firms in their immediate locality as well. I seem to be. And perhaps just to make a link to what was said by Ricky O'Rourke introducing the conference this morning, he talked about some of the activities in Belfast Metropolitan College in terms of enterprise, and certainly that college has been leading some of the work we've been doing in making sure that it's not just a matter of looking to support local businesses, local industry around us, but also to think that within our own ranks, within the student population itself, we have the potential for young people to be involved in entrepreneurial activity, and that the development of the skills that would underpin that is something that we should be involved in terms of delivery of our normal curriculum as well. So those are just some examples, I think, of where the sector is coming together so that the sum, if you like, of the total is greater than the individual parts that actually might be resulting from the colleges working as isolated individual colleges rather than working as an integrated sector, which I think is the approach we're trying to get to. In terms of how a college listens to the businesses it works with and develops models of partnership, I just wanted to spend a moment or two talking about some of the partnership models that have emerged in my own experience over the last 4 to 5 years. Because the one thing that I have learned in working with industry is if you come from a college background with a fixed idea about how you interact with a particular company or group of companies, that you're not likely to get the most positive response from those companies. If you enter into real communication with business leaders, with managers of plants, factories, it's only then I think that you can start to develop what is the most appropriate partnership arrangement to meet the needs of that particular individual company. I just wanted to illustrate that by looking at some of the partnerships that my own college has been involved in developing over the last number of years, because I think they illustrate a number of different models here. Underpinning a lot of those models, though, has been the college's involvement, and all the colleges have been involved in this, the Lectures into Industry scheme, which certainly in my case, I would have to say, has been a transformative experience in terms of college development. Because we're talking here, for those of you who aren't aware of the Lectures into Industry scheme, something which combines a number of very important elements funded through our department, managed by LSDA in Northern Ireland. But the reason that it's important is it first of all provides an upskilling experience for an individual lecturer who's placed in a company for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. But more than that, the lecturers placed in the companies are involved in managing real projects within that particular company environment. So therefore there is an outcome, a practical outcome for the company, for the business itself. The lecturers can have their work accredited through City and Guilds Senior Awards, which puts it, makes the professional development side of the exercise so important. But what we have found in our college is that the relationships built up when lecturers are actually in the company can lead to all sorts of other spin-offs and partnerships and business at the end of the day for the college. And certainly that's happened in a number of the partnerships that we have developed. But the sort of examples I'm talking about here, the shared resource model. Our campus in Ballymena is quite close to the Michelin plant. And the college houses the Michelin Technical Training Centre. And that Technical Training Centre is staffed by college staff and Michelin training staff. Therefore, we train the apprentices from Michelin and the rest of the workforce in Michelin, but that facility is available for use with other engineering companies in the area. So the partnership there is one where there is a shared training facility and it's located in the college.